the fields, cutting grass, stuff around the house and stuff. And but the most interesting part was the fact that they raised 2 pigs. And so I had to feed the pigs and build a house for them and all kinds of interesting stuff. Well, one day, 1 week, I guess I should say, Pat and his wife went to a public relations seminar on some tropical island. They called it a seminar, but left a number where they could be reached in case there was an emergency. And primarily the week went by without incidents. And one Friday afternoon, I got a call from the house caretaker, and she got me out of class and said, "Rick, you got to come home immediately. The pigs have escaped." Not what I wanted to deal with on a Friday afternoon, but I went back to the farm, and sure enough, they had escaped. She, of course, left for the day, and one pig had headed north into the woods. The other pig headed south down the road. To keep a story bearable and short, about 12 hours later, I was able to round up the pigs. I don't know if anybody's tried to deal with pigs, but they are not like a horse. You can't lead them back or anything. So about 12 hours later, got them literally hogtied together on the front lawn. It was gruesome 12 hours. Didn't know what quite to do, so I called this emergency number down to this island, asked for Pat to see what I should do, and of course I was rather nervous. I was living for free, room and board included and everything, and pigs had escaped under my nose, and I was in trouble. So I got Pat on the phone, and I hemmed and hawed and talked about the weather and how classes were going, how's the seminar going. Finally I said, "Rick, cut through the crap. What's your message? Why'd you call me?" "Well, the pigs have escaped. Call the butcher," he says. That was music to my ears. Next day, the pigs were on the truck, off to the butcher. A couple of months later, Christmas rolls around, I got 2 pounds of fresh cut bacon. It was wonderful. The moral of this story is, cut through the crap, deliver the message, you bring home the bacon. About 14 years later, I had lost track of Pat in the meantime, and I was out in Denver for the Cable Television Public Affairs Association seminar, and Pat was our featured speaker out there. He spoke to about 500 of our counterparts out there, and I think the message is the same. If you cut through the crap, deliver the message, you bring home the bacon. That says it all for his form of public relations, and he's well known for cutting through all the clutter to get our messages out. I will say that Pat is senior counsel to Jackson & Wagner, which is a PR firm headquartered in Exeter, New Hampshire. It was founded in 1956. He's got offices throughout the nation. He's got clients throughout the world. And most recently, one of his clients was Continental Cablevison, where he consulted with the corporate office on our strategy for retransmission consent. It was his advice, and we adopted it to remain under the radar regarding the retransmission consent battle. I think in large part we came out of that nationwide fairly unscathed. It wasn't a pretty situation, but then again, most of our broadcast stations are on our cable systems, to the extent where some of them are now paying us to be on the cable system. So certainly the tables were turned. At this point, I'd like to introduce Pat Jackson.
I heard a rumor that not all of you were totally pleased with these wonderful phone calls you've been getting recently from customers, which I can't understand, because here's a great opportunity to get close and personal with the people who pay the bills. I also heard that some of you are a little concerned about the Bell system, or what's left of it, and the thoughts they may have about future business opportunities and the cash flow that they bring to the table. I think you can dismiss that last one quickly. In 1982, when the Bell system thought it was going to be broken up, they retained us to advise them on how to avoid breaking up. And the advice was fairly simple. I remember they thought that this was going to be a rational decision. You see, that someone was going to look rationally and say, AT&T is the biggest corporation we've ever had. It's done all these wonderful technological things, and when you pick up the phone, you know, the dial tone is always there, and so no judge or Congress is going to do anything about this. And so I remember taking the chairman home, putting him on the phone, and having him call his own customer service department and ask to get the phone moved from the bedroom to the den. A large number of minutes later, when he hung up, he said, "We are going to change the way we do business in this company." Well, 14 years later, I'm not sure they have changed the way they do business. And so I think maybe you've got a more level playing field than you think about. On the other hand, let me tell you a quick story about one of the players that's now become a major player from this potential, we're still calling them potential, aren't we, this potential source of competition. And this is Ray Smith, the chairman of Bell Atlantic. 2 days before Bell Atlantic pulled off their probable, it isn't final yet as you know, but their probable TCI merger, a group of analysts were meeting and looking at the future of the various baby bells. And out of this meeting came a lot of nationally reported information as to which position each of the baby bells was taking. And way down at the bottom it says, "Not a player, not even interested, Bell Atlantic." See? Because Ray Smith knows how to go under the radar and not give your strategies away to all your competition, because you're always out telling, "Oh, this is how great we are and this is what we're going to do." 2 days later, he announces that, "Oh, well, he's got a little merger going with TCI. I mean, is that what you meant?" So we went to Ray and we said, "Ray, how do you run your company? How do you do this?" And I think what he said, it comes from a baby bell, so it's important. But if it had come from the person running a store down the street or the hospital over there, it would still be as pithy and as important to you. Here's what he said. Here's how I run my company. He says, "I run it like a political machine." He says, "I have ward healers in every department and district chairmen all over the place. And every employee is on our political team and is out there all the time selling what we've got to offer and how good we are during the course of business to all the customers and vendors and suppliers and others that they relate with, and also on their own time. They're home selling our candidacy to their family, their friends, their neighbors." Well, if there's a lesson we can learn about what we're going to have to do, whether or not these folks all become our well-heeled competitors, I think it's that lesson from Ray Smith. We've got to run our organizations more like political campaigns. And everybody's got to know what the candidacy stands for and be able to enunciate that clearly to everybody they come in contact with. Because this is the new mode of success for all organizations. I do not just mean businesses. I mean all organizations. Because your competition isn't the other people who are in your business. Today, competition is a totally different thing, largely thanks to you, or at least the electronic instantaneous communication revolution of which you are such a large part. Today, the problem that each of us in this room and all those folks out there have is 24 hours only in a day. And so much on the menu. There's so much we can all do. So what this means is that competition today isn't just competition for dollars, though that's important. It's competition for simply getting the time and attention of people. And what that means, therefore, is that every organization, every idea is in competition with every other. I have a hard time getting this across to some clients. Our higher education clients, for example, it's hard for me to get across to them that if a family is having a difficult time because of the recession or a layoff or something, that family isn't going to be able to focus on where Susie's going to go to college or whether she's going to be able to go to college because they're distracted. Their attention is on to something else. And it's even harder then to get them to understand that they're in competition with, Lee Iacocca's successors at Chrysler, because if the family needs a new car and buys one, Susie may not go to college or may not go to the college of her choice. She may have to go to the closest, least cost alternative. And you could supply each of you thousands of other examples. So today, this is why we need to take our vision of what we can supply our communities, of how we fit into the social fabric. And notice that, social fabric, not the services we can give you for a few bucks. Nobody wants to think in that small way anymore. Again, thanks to you. You gave us the global village. And the global village makes us think globally and holistically more than we ever did before. So people want to know that they're part of something big that's happening. That means social changes. It means your instrumentation, your programming as part of a whole new culture and lifestyle. And if we can ever get ourselves to really believe that, and I got to tell you, we've been working with the cable industry since the great days of the franchise wars. And so I know a little something about what you're doing out there, and I still don't believe that we ourselves are immersed enough in what it is we're really selling to go out and be those ambassadors and be those missionaries, to be those political members of the team that Ray Smith talks about. And so I want to share with you at least some techniques for how we can do this, but I have to leave it up to you to become the cheerleaders, the preachers, the whatever you want to call it in your organizations, to make sure that there's no one among us that when they're out there, I don't care if they're at the church supper or the cocktail party or with their family at supper or whether they're dealing with a customer, that no one ever forgets that for that moment they are Continental. It's written right here in big letters. And if they aren't exactly what that person expects, then we come down a little bit in our competitive efforts. And if they screw up, we may come down a lot in our competitive efforts. So it's a different game than it used to be. The good old days were wonderful. And when you first came along, we all said, boy, this is great. Now we got the combination of a mass medium that we can target. Isn't this super? But you see, we were all believing a strategy that the research told us way back in the 30s no longer worked. And that was that if you could just get this right message together, this great silver bullet, and send it out there, that everybody would say, wow, why didn't I think of that before? And immediately go along or change their minds. The trouble is, humans aren't programmed that way. People don't make decisions based on information, and today they make decisions based on information less than they ever have in the history of mankind. Why? Because there's too damn much information, and none of us can keep up with it. So how do we make our decisions then? We make our decisions based on other human beings that we have confidence in, with whom we discuss what we're thinking, and they verify or they contradict our thinking. Now, we've known this ever since 1911, when Max Weber, the founder of sociology, wrote a little paper in which he pointed out that there were two pieces to decision making. One of them was information. You had to know something about the subject to even be interested in making a decision. But that the other piece was that we humans, despite all our bragging about our independence and, hey, boy, I'm a Lone Ranger cowboy here, I make my own mind up, he said that's just a show. That's just to kind of buck up our spirits and make us feel, that we're in charge. But deep inside here, we know we're not in charge. And so we want to check with others. We want to check with our spouses and families and our peers and opinion leaders that we trust. And then we make our decisions. Well, now, in this new world,